monitoring and alerting will you add to the log system to stabilize the solution? Watch the lesson that describes the problem, then come up with your own solution. When you're ready, continue the lesson to see a sample solution. Remember that the sample solution is not the best possible solution, it's just an example, and your choices might be better.
So let's move into our design challenge. We're going to be adding monitoring and alerting for our logging system. Now, as you can see here, this has been quite substantial. There's a lot that we could potentially be monitoring for, especially because this is logging, which essentially is monitoring in and of itself. So let's go ahead and define this so you get something to think about. Now, the problem we're trying to solve here is the logging service isn't quite stable. It needs monitoring and alerting added. So let's consider what you think might be important to monitor and under what conditions alerts and notifications should be sent. So in this case, make a list of 3 monitoring and alerting items that you would put into place to support stabilizing this particular solution. So I'm going to pause briefly here so you can pause the video and kind of write down a couple of ideas that you might have. Okay, so let's go ahead and reveal kind of our potential solution. In this case here, we want to account for something. Logs no longer are being generated or recording. So we want to look out for that. Anytime that we see log data getting out of date or out of time, or just we're not seeing any updates to data coming in. So we want to be able to troubleshoot the many different places that could occur. So we do have some reference architectures that's kind of summarizing. Let me go back here and kind of finish this up. Basically, there are a number of different potential fail-safes, right? If these networks go down, say we're not getting the data storage logs, but we are getting web logs and app logs, we want to be able to monitor for all of these different processes. I think this would be the number one thing that we want to do. We also want to check for recency, not recency bias, but check for recency of all this data. So periodically, we would query Bigtable or query our log data to make sure that it's no more than say 5 or so minutes behind. I think that would be kind of the best monitoring. Most of these others, we'd also potentially monitor the queue mechanisms in PubSub. So if this starts to get too far behind, perhaps for some reason our cloud functions are not scaling as quick enough to handle this particular processing. But as a white label, what we would do, or a white label monitoring, we'd monitor to see are any of these log data out of date, and are they missing potential payload information regarding all 3 of our different logs. And then of course our black box would monitor for the network latency, the network uptime, and are we monitoring the queues and checking for any of this data being ingested. Okay, so with that, all right, this is only one single example application. Now, there are many different solutions available. We actually have solution architects which come from many different backgrounds. So if you go to cloud.google.com/solutions, you're going to find a number of different case studies and solutions designed for many different verticals. So you can see a lot of synergies between the two and how they take advantage of services, but there are custom tweaks specific to certain verticals. And if you need more information outside of this course, feel free to go to cloud.google.com/docs/tutorials.